Starting jokes aside, War Thunder's naval mode is largely incredibly unenjoyed. People don't really play it, it's hard to find matches, and you don't really see people talking about it like you do air and ground. Now, I know most of you guys don't care about this, and that's perfectly acceptable, but if you want to hear about some good things and bad things about the mode, stick around. I want to deep dive into what's currently wrong with it, what Gaijin can do in the short term to potentially garner some interest, get some people back into it, and what they need to do in the long term if they ever want it to be able to seriously compete to the other game modes. The number one issue for Naval at the moment is the grind and a couple things that go alongside that. One, it takes way too long to find matches. The low amount of players makes it take upwards of a good few minutes to find a match, where it's usually under 60 seconds for ground and air. Because of that, most of the time, even when you do find a match, it's mainly bots, which aren't worth very much RP. That, combined with the fact that an average naval match is 20 to 25 minutes, which is only going to grant you about 7,000 RP on the low end and 10,000 RP on the high end, when compared with ground, where for half that time you can get the same RP, or for air, where for a third of that time you can get the same RP, it just takes too long to get through trees, which require just as much RP for the top vehicles as air and ground, despite being overall smaller trees and set decades in the past compared to where the other game modes are set. The immediate issue is the grind. Um, the next big issue is also in the tech trees, sadly. There are less vehicles for naval, and that is perfectly all right. But currently, there is a serious issue of compression. The problem I see here is, compared to air and ground, being in an up tier can be not so much punishing as unplayable. If you are in a 11.0 ground vehicle going up against 12.0 top tier ground vehicles, you're not in a serious issue. Hitting them in the side, hitting them in the turret ring, hitting them in the lower glacis, whatever. You can get good penetrating shots that will disable or destroy tanks a full BR higher than you. Even a good couple BRs above you, you'll still be fine. A Leopard 1 can get a decent amount of kills at top tier. It just requires a good player and strong positioning. The same is true of AirRB, though absolutely there is a much larger gap between aircraft that have Fox 3 missiles and aircraft limited to Fox 1 missiles, which currently results in things like the relative weakness of planes like the Su-27, the F-15A, and the Su-33 when they're in up tiers. However, comparing that to naval is night and day. If you're in a 6.0 vehicle in naval, which is a relatively popular BR bracket, you are playing something that has maybe 6-inch guns and maybe 150 millimeters of armor. Your weapons fire relatively fast, but you don't do a ton of damage, and your post-pen isn't crazy. Against equal vehicles, it's a fine fight. You're just going to have to hit each other a lot. In an up tier, you're going to be fighting things with 16-inch guns and 350 to 400 millimeter armor belts. You cannot pen them in any area that will do serious damage. It is going to take you about 30 minutes of solid firing to get a kill here, which is insane. They fire back, they will one-shot you most of the time. And one could make the argument, oh, well, you can just get assists. That requires your teammates to be getting kills, which is not a guarantee, and it is an incredibly slow grind. There's also, you could fire on bots, but again, you're going to get almost no RP for it. So once again, the grind is slowed down by simply playing the game at all. Yes, it's going to be hard in air and ground as well, but getting a kill in air and ground is quite doable. Getting a single kill in the 6 to 7 BR bracket in naval, if you are the 6 and they are the 7, can be borderline impossible even if you get less armored battleships and battlecruisers. It's not good, and while I know further decompressing naval is a bit of a chore given how little people play it right now, it's gotta be necessary. There needs to be something done about that because it's currently a number one issue. Now, there's a couple other issues that I think are important. A big one is people simply not knowing how to play Naval, which I can do a video guide on in the future if people do want to know. People are interested in it. I know a lot of people do play Naval for the purpose of grinding SL with ships like the Moffat because it is one of the best methods, but generally, people don't truly know how to play the game mode, and that is, I think, a decent problem, but one that I think there are a lot of solutions to, and I think the biggest issue is lack of interest because of the bad rap the game mode gets, and because it has some serious problems that Gaijin just isn't addressing. Now, I'm hoping that they do. The current update, at least from the leak lists, looks like it is going to address some serious issues, such as one death levers by adding more multi-vehicle packs, and the predominance of CAS by adding some new easy-to-use AA that has things like Fox 3 missiles and longer-range IR missiles like the Iris-T SLM. But Naval consistently gets barely any new vehicles. We've been at the same top tier meta in Naval for the past 4 years. It is not changing. But even when we do get new vehicles, we don't get significant changes to the gameplay of Naval. Now, I'm hoping they add subs at some point in the future, and I think that'll grab a lot of new players. But there are some immediate things they can do right now that I think that they should. Now, I don't expect Gaijin to see this video, but on the offside chance they do, here's some genuine suggestions, because I don't usually see these in people that are ranting about the problems in the game. For one, absolutely, bots need to be worth more RP. At the moment, they are punishing people for playing the least played game mode. I should be a premier Naval enjoyer, right? I truly should be. I like how it plays in War Thunder overall, and I can have some good fun with it. I play a bunch of World of Warships, and I really, really, really like naval combat in general. It's one of my favorite areas of history to study. But where the game is right now, I will have to play so much more Naval to grind than any other mode. And it's not fun enough that it's worth me playing over the other modes where there's a lot more attention and focus. Now, I'm not expecting Gaijin to suddenly decide that Naval is their primary concern. What I am saying is, people that do want to play Naval should not feel like they are being punished by the game for playing the least played game mode. You should be getting more, not less. And I understand that they do have the nice SL bonuses, and that is good, but we need higher RP bonuses, especially for killing bots. If the game mode is so dead it cannot find a full 12v12 match, then you need to start either A, lowering the amount of players in a match, or B, and I think probably a lot more helpful, letting me grind off of the bots. If more people actually get up in the tiers and show off the higher tier vehicles, you'll see people get into Naval more. But at the moment, the average person does not want to wait in queue for 5 minutes, then play a 20-minute match with their 5.0 vehicle they might not like, and then have researched 1/100,000th of a percent of a battleship. People want that vehicle, just like people want MBTs. You should not be making the grind the same when battleships A currently are not going to be the top tier of Naval for the longest time, and B, where people just don't have the interest to grind that far in the mode right now. People need to be able to get up to top tier as soon as possible so that they can actually enjoy. Which reminds me, the second important fix they can do in the short term that takes almost nothing on Gaijin's part is making Naval EC permanent. Now, I know for a lot of air players, hearing EC and permanent makes you immediately go white in the face with fear, because I know most of us really don't like those maps, and due to the lack of secondary objectives and actual fidelity in Air EC, it ends up being just the same as Air RB, but with a larger map. But Naval EC is good. It has real objectives like taking out convoys or sinking enemy aircraft carriers. It involves a robust point system where you don't start with your most powerful vehicle, and there's a genuine progression in the match. It is one of the best game modes in War Thunder. I rant a lot about how the game's combat and sim aspects are fine, but the gameplay aspects, like balancing and game modes, really aren't good. Naval EC is where they really hit their stride, and it's awesome. but it only comes around for a couple days a week. Realistically, Naval EC needs to be permanent. Even if that means that players have to host the matches themselves and deal with some wonky ping, I don't see this costing money on Gaijin's part, and I do see it doing a lot to help the Naval community. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time looking at the long term because A, this is not stuff that they're going to be able to implement immediately. B, it's not stuff I should have any say over. And C, I don't know how things will change depending on short term implementation, new vehicles, whatever else. The number one thing for long term is going to be, as much as I've said a bunch about how adding more vehicles without fixing mechanics is a big problem, the number one thing is going to be adding more modern vehicles. At the moment, people like grinding air to be able to use that air in ground. People need to also want to grind air to use it in naval. The fact we have the FA-18C, but it doesn't have harpoon missiles, and even if it did, there would be no point to them, is crazy. The fact it's been 3 years, maybe even 4 years, since they added the AS-34 Cormoran on the Tornado IDS Marine Fleeger, and there's no point to them because there aren't any boats that play at that BR, is crazy. Gotta work on that. I know it will take a ton of effort, but quite frankly, they're already in War Thunder Mobile. What are we doing, guys? War Thunder Mobile's got 1980s destroyers and stuff. Come on. The other biggest thing, submarines. I expect they're coming out later this year, but we'll see. They've been teased for so long now. Just add subs. Like the last Battle for the Atlantic event, which is nearly 2 years old, was perfectly fine. They were literally finished. Just add them. Just add them. If you want a good way to balance it, make it so that people can spawn for a little bit of spawn points, an anti-sub plane, like a drone. Perfect. Fine. That's all we need to do. Just add subs. Come on, guys. Um, in the long term, we need more vehicles. We need a larger variation to how the game plays. They also have to address what the hell they're going to do with Coastal. It's just in a weird place right now, but I think that that's a much lower focus. There are problems still at 1.0 to 3.0 BR in ground, but you don't see everybody complaining about it because it's not as much of a problem. Everyone really is going to be focused around the heart of World War II, which is about 5 to 6 BR, and the modern era. There's other areas too, but the player base is going to consolidate in those well-defined eras. So I think making sure that the boats are good in those specific eras is a lot more important than around wonky BR transitions that nobody truly is playing unless they're grinding, which is around 3.0 to 4.0. These are basically the suggestions I have. If you got any others, tell me. I don't want the entire comment section to be Lamau Naval sucks, so say it for you right now. Lamau Naval sucks. But it could be good. I think they're going in the right direction in a lot of places. I think ship-to-ship combat has improved in the last year. They've made some nice changes to readability of the interface. I still think it's harder for a new player to grasp how naval works compared to ground or air, but I also think it's always going to be the least popular mode, just because it's less high octane. That being said, I think that they are on the right track in terms of long-term progression. I think they need to make some immediate fixes, especially if this next update is going to include the big fancy battleships, because a lot of people are going to get on, want to grind those, and then immediately get off. And I really think Gaijin shoots themselves in the foot a lot with Naval, and then everyone complains that the Naval mode sucks. The biggest reason the Naval mode sucks is because it doesn't have a lot of players, and the biggest reason it doesn't have a lot of players is because it sucks. And quite frankly, that chicken and the egg thing started with the Naval mode sucking because Gaijin did not put a lot of effort into it, besides it's going to be World of Warships, but with War Thunder damage mechanics. And then they didn't really do the damage mechanics correct. That being said, again, right direction, not fast enough, and stuff needs to be done in the short term. Overall, I would highly recommend people do give Naval a try at least once, especially if you enjoy getting a lot of SL and you need to grind SL, because I think most people would have more fun than they expect just not necessarily as much fun as your favorite, personal thing. That is it for me for this video. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. I'm trying to get back in the swing of things, but we'll see. If you have any suggestions, please do leave them in the comments. I want to hear them. I want suggestions on what to do. With that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, evening, afternoon.